All right, welcome back for another episode of our podcast here at the Santa Fe New Mexican. I am the sports editor, Will Weber, joined as always by my esteemed colleague, James Barron. James, I was approached by two people last week at the St. Michael's football game, complimenting me on our podcast, and both of them thought I was James. So there you go. I'm getting misidentified as James Barron, and I had to politely correct one of them, saying, "Well, I'm about a foot taller than James." So there's that.
Yeah. So, but other than that, I can see how we get confused easily.
Oh yeah,
Everybody kept calling me Will at the St. Mike's Cobra match, anyhow. So
right. Yeah. So here we are. We are in the state semifinals for high school football. We'll talk about that. But last week was volleyball, man. And I was reading your stuff and keeping track of what you were doing, and it's always like. Sometimes stories are better when the team you're covering winds up losing because the emotions are pretty raw. But just what was it like on Saturday when the team that everyone thought was going to win didn't win?
Well, I'll be honest with you. I had my doubts probably by Thursday, when I saw them against in the first game when they lost the game to Hot Springs. You could just tell that St. Mike's just. I think the pressure got to him a little bit. I mean, I nothing against the lady Horsemen there, but you could just kind of tell. And I think people kind of we all kind of forgot that really only 4 of these girls played significant or had significant playing time last year on this in the state championship match. So you basically had a new team out there, and a lot of these girls didn't have a lot of varsity experience. This is their first time playing at the Star Center, or I'm sorry, the Event Center. And it kind of showed. I mean, they looked nervous. They looked out of sorts, probably up until the last maybe 3 games against Cobra. And unfortunately, Cobra is just really good, and it really came down to who executed over those last 3 or 4 points. It would have been great to see that match go 5, but you could kind of tell that St. Mike's wasn't quite playing loose and with the kind of confidence that we've been accustomed to. So, I honestly thought that I wasn't surprised when Cobra beat them. I thought Cobra was the best team out there during that whole weekend with the way they played. So, that was it was a great match regardless. I mean, when you have 2 games that go, beyond the 25-point limit, you had one that went 31-29, you had one that went 28-26. And those are two really good teams, evenly matched. And quite honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if we see this again next year if those two play each other because Cobra only loses 2 girls. St. Mike's, they lose about 3. They lose, I think, 4 or 5 seniors, but they got a lot of girls with that got experience. They're going to get better, and I think they're going to use this as a motivational tool to get themselves ready for 2026. And to me, the wild card is going to be Indian School. Indian School's got Joseph Garcia has done a really good job with that program, and they're tough. And I think they'll be right there in the mix as well. But really, those are the 3 teams I think that will be at it again next year in 3A.
You can't forget about Santa Fe Prep, because if you don't mention Santa Fe Prep, we're going to get buried by email. So you got to say something nice about the Blue Griffins.
They were there.
There we go. Oh man, I can hear my inbox churning right now. So
Santa Fe Prep has some really has really good talent, but they've got to learn how to play better. When they get into those last 4 or 5 points of a match. I mean, they probably lost about 4 or 5 games over the weekend just because they couldn't finish out. They just couldn't finish strong, and they've got to work on that and get better. If they do that, I mean, they're a team that's got top 4 talent, but you sometimes have to learn. And this was a learning experience for them. None of them had been to state, so it was just something that they had to go through, and hopefully they get better at it. But that's the biggest thing is just being able to execute at crucial times.
Yeah, I was covering the St. Mike's football game. They started at 1:00 on Saturday, and by halftime, right around 2:00, there was a noticeable dip in the attendance.
Yeah, everybody kind of checked out, didn't they?
Yeah, by the end of the game, I'd say a good third of the crowd was gone because they're trying to get to Rio Rancho for the volleyball championships. So, yeah, it was an interesting day for the St. Michael's campus. But
it certainly was, and even Joey Butler, the defensive coordinator for St. Mike's, he's got his daughter is on the is a freshman on the team, and he was getting updates during the football game about how they were doing. So even his mindset was over in Rio Rancho.
That it probably explains why they actually gave up a touchdown. So Robertson's 7 points surpassed the average point allowance for St. Mike's this year. They begin.
The end is nigh for St. Mike's, man. I mean, they
Yeah.
give up 7. What are they going to do next? 10?
I know, right? Yeah, they've only given up double figures once all season, and when they give up 7, that's their average is 5.7 per game. So, that's the thing about that game that kind of I was trying to illustrate it in my story. I didn't do a very good point of it. I think is St. Mike's has been so rarely pushed in football this year.
Yeah,
that any kind of hiccup makes it feel much bigger than what it actually is.
Yeah.
So they were up 7-0 in that game, and Robertson's doing absolutely nothing. They can't run the ball. They can't really move the ball. And then they had a 54-yard pass play.
Right.
Yeah, and then they wound up scoring a couple plays later. Their quarterback dives across the pylon, and it's 7-7. And you're thinking, well, that's weird. It's like getting punched, and when you're not expecting to get punched. And then St. Mike's turns around.
Man. I mean, let's be honest.
Yeah, St. Mike's can't run. They can't do anything with it on the next drive, and then Robertson gets the ball back, and you're thinking, "Wow, because is this 2013 happening all over again?" And then, of course, Pete Johnson, the kid who hadn't played all season, or really for the last half of the season, with a knee injury, he has a huge interception. St. Mike scores in the very next drive, and just like that, order was restored. But for about 6 or 7, 8 minutes.
It was a little nerve-wracking there, wasn't it?
Yeah. But that's all it takes to make people at St. Mike's nervous is you give up one touchdown and everyone's like, oh my God, what's
going on here? What's happening?
Yeah. So the semifinals are set. Hope Christian, St. Mike's district rival, will go to Dexter and play the number 2 seed Dexter this weekend. St. Mike's is at home. They have the home field advantage over New Mexico Military, the 5 seed. Nimi knocked off Pewaukee on Friday night. In a game that was really never all that close. Pewaukee was it's hard to prepare for New Mexico Military because sometimes you just don't know what they have. And these guys showed up. They're big and they're physical and they're fast. And Pewaukee is not very big at all. So some of their running backs would just run right through the Pewaukee defense. And so Nimi's actually a decent team. The problem with Nimi is they don't throw the ball particularly well. And St. Mike's has been so good at stopping the run all season.
Against the run, yeah.
Yeah, so I think this could potentially be another typical St. Mike's football game. But
another 30-0 route.
Yeah, you just never know. So, yeah, that game will be Saturday, and then of course the Taos game and Class 4A. Taos Tigers, a team who started 0-3. Everyone's throwing dirt on them, including myself. And here they are in the state semifinals.
Yep, they've gone 7-1 since then. So that's a pretty impressive turnaround. By the Tigers. And watching the game on Friday, unfortunately I had to watch it online. I didn't have the opportunity to actually go to the game because I'm stuck in the Star Center trying to watch state volleyball. But watching Evan Salazar, just it was a remarkable game. I mean, a kid throws 57 times, throws for 404 yards, hits the game winner with 12 seconds left. Just a great win for Taos. It's something that they can really hang their hat on. And I hate saying it because I mean we can talk about Bloomfield much the same way we talk about St. Mike's, but there really isn't anybody, I think, outside of maybe St. Pius and 4A that can play with Bloomfield. So it should be nice for Taos to say, hey, at least we made it to the semifinals and got one step further. But it was a great game. Especially Salazar just really took control of that game in the second half. Had 3 touchdowns, 1 running, 2 passing. Connected on 2 deep balls, and I'm still shocked that Academy didn't even try something different to account for Alejandro Ortega, because he had beaten him deep about 3 or 4 times, and they were fortunate that at least a couple of them were called back because of penalties. But he just got behind the defense again, and walks right into the end zone on the final play. And it was a little bit shocking to see because you kind of thought that Academy had that game won, especially when they're 44 yards out and they only got 17 seconds left.
Yeah, Bloomfield is an absolute just a beast in that classification. They have been for a while too, but it does feel a lot like 3A, where St. Mike's has just been head and shoulders above everyone else. And it really, it's like I told Joey Fernandez, St. Mike's coach, after the game, is everyone's been looking forward to a repeat of last year. Since as soon as the game went final last year at Ivanhead, you kind of knew these two teams were going to be right back at it again. So for all intents and purposes, it looks a lot like Dexter and St. Mike's. This time it'll be down in Dexter. And I think that's an interesting wrinkle in the whole thing is putting St. Mike's on the road and making them win in what should be a really,
Very
really
hostile
hostile
environment.
environment.
Yeah.
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 Now that said, Nimmy's probably going to win this weekend, and Hope's going to win. It'll be it's going to be
Nimian.
everything.
Well, I think to me the wild card might be Hope. I mean, can they? Do you think they can give Dexter any kind of a game?
Yeah, I saw Hope twice this year, and I wasn't. Look, I know this is probably going to get back to Hope on some level, but Hope did not seem particularly all that impressive to me. They're a good 3A football team, but they really struggled to beat Pewaukee. Pewaukee kind of handed them that win. They did play well against West Las Vegas too. There was that, but look, in that district, it's St. Mike's and it's everybody else. And when you kind of get spoiled by watching St. Mike's, you feel like that's the standard, when really the standard is more along the lines of like New Mexico Military, Pewaukee, Hope Christian. That's where 3A is.
Yeah.
Yeah, Dexter and St. Mike's were playing at a higher level. Both those teams could probably compete pretty well in 4A right now. But
No, they absolutely could, and I'd love to see a Bloomfield St. Michael's matchup. It harkens back to the days when those two were duking it out in 3A, and they had some really good games during about a 10-15 year stretch, and I think that would be that would definitely be a game I'll definitely pay good money to see.
well, if St. Mike's wins, it'll be their 5th consecutive trip to the state championship game, which is just crazy when you think about the run that team is on, that program is on. So once again, it's going to ruin Thanksgiving because those guys are going to have to practice on Thanksgiving morning like they always
That's
have.
what they want, right?
Yeah,
That's
it's like
what they look forward to.
And what's worse is our photographer, Jim Weber or Nathan or one of those guys are going to have to go out and shoot practice on Thanksgiving morning.
Thanksgiving Day, yeah.
And so then we're going to find out about how much of a struggle it was to go shoot that while we're doing our own Thanksgiving. So
Especially at 9 o'clock in the morning, man. They don't want to get up that early just to see St. Mike's practice. It's like,
and that's the benefit you and I can do is we can interview
Yeah.
people beforehand. It's like, well, let's pretend it's Thursday. What's that going to be
the
like?
great thing is these guys have experience with it, so it's not like it's something new. They can rely on what they've done the last 4 years to carry us, to guide us on the story.
Yeah. Well, this kind of year. Look, last weekend was super busy for the two of us because there was high school volleyball, which is all consuming. Thank God you cover that thing because I don't have to go to volleyball, and then I cover all the football stuff. And then there's the football we can't get to. There's the UNM stuff. There was the New Mexico United. So
that's right. Yeah.
So, and New Mexico Highlands had its last football game of the season last Saturday.
We were just a scotch busy.
Yeah. And then by the time Saturday night finally wraps up, I'm not even sure what time it is. It just felt.
It was just everything was on top of each other and just everything just kept, it's like nonstop, right?
Yeah. It was one of those days where this is, I guess there's a reason why we do it right now. I can't think of one. So
because we're insane.
Yeah, I guess because we're not good at anything else.
Yeah, that's pretty true.
Yeah. So what we're gonna do is look, we're coming right down to the dog days for college football, which means that UNM, which won last week, they got 2 games left. So we'll talk about the Lobo football team and their prospects for the postseason because they're definitely going to be in the postseason. And then we talk a little bit about New Mexico Highlands. Look, New Mexico Highlands had that freshman running back who set the school record for single season rushing. Where's he going to be playing next year? I
gotta imagine Jason X probably got a hotline to his cell phone. So
he will not be playing in Las Vegas, New Mexico next year.
No, that's for sure.
So we'll talk about that and then some other things. We'll wrap this thing up because we're doing this on a Tuesday. That means I have to go interview the UNM cross country star, which we'll talk about that here in a second too. But we'll take a break. We'll come right back. All right, look, James, we are right at the end of the college football season. We got 2 games to go for most of the teams in the country, and that includes the University of New Mexico. The Lobos last weekend beat Colorado State in front of 27,000 fans. They're drawing really well. They ended a 16-year, 13-game losing streak to Colorado State. The Lobos, who only got 85 votes in the preseason Mountain West poll, And Boise State was the top team, over 400 points in the poll. UNM, which was picked 11th, they're now 7-3, and they're in I believe, a 4 or 5-way tie for second place in the Mountain West. So if they win out, they play Air Force on Saturday in Colorado Springs, and then they close on Black Friday at home against San Diego State. That team that everyone thought was not going to amount to a hill of whatever finished 9-3 and 6-2. And if they're 6-2, they've got a legitimate beef about being in the conference championship game. Now, I'll say this too. The Mountain West, they take the top 2 teams to the conference championship.
Yeah.
The number 1 team hosts that game on December 5th. But there's the possibility exists that there could be a 5-way tie for first place if it all works out. Or they could have 5 teams at 5-3. But if the Lobos win out, they're 6-2. They've got a legitimate shot of being in that, which is just unbelievable. They've never played the Mountain West championship game. They haven't been in the conference championship game since they were in the WAC in the late 90s.
97. Yeah.
Yeah, it's been a long time. And it's remarkable what this team has been able to do. They're not winning games. They're not kicking teams up and down the field. They're just winning games. And it's one of the more unexpected things I've seen in a long, long time.
Oh, it is. But hey, and I think Saturday's game was a perfect example of that, man. That was not they did not look good in that game against a team like, CSU that's not having a good year.
Mm-hmm.
And they struggled to pull that out. But they've had this incredible ability just to be able to pull those games out that you don't think they should. So
yeah,
and they'll probably need a little bit more of that magic when they play San Diego State on Black Friday.
Yeah. Well, they have Air Force this weekend. Air Force is not the Air Force we grew up with. They are 3-7. They're really struggling. And there's a reason Air Force is terrible. It's not the coaching. It's not their style. They still run that triple option. But Air Force, just like all the service academies, they don't accept transfers. Yeah. They can't deal with the transfer portal. So if they lose players, you got to bring in
freshmen. Yeah.
Yeah. And they don't pay NIL money. So there's no incentive for – not that anyone would go to the Air Force Academy anyway to get money. They're going there to serve their country. But without those 2 elements, you're competing against teams that can literally buy talent now. And that includes New Mexico. So New Mexico, for the first time and probably since I can remember, they're going to play the Air Force Academy with a measurable difference in talent. They're much more talented than Air Force is. And it's a game that they should win. Now, I think the betting line is pick 'em for that game just because –
the Air Force Lobos, come on, man.
Yeah, they run that triple option wishbone. It's hard to really prepare for. And UNM is, they're still. Everyone looks at UNM as they're still
the Lobos, right?
Yeah, but if you can win that game, and you come back home and you're playing San Diego State, which is defensively one of the best teams in the country, they're only giving up 12 points a game. You could make the argument that the San Diego State game will be maybe one of the, if not the most important regular season games in UNM history. And it's in late November with potentially the conference championship on the line, which is just crazy to think about.
Yeah.
it's crazy to think about.
And the thing is that, you're going to have this weird, and you could potentially have this really weird, 3-4-way tie for first with everybody at 6-2 at that point.
Yeah.
It would really suck to see UNM kind of get screwed out of that. But, you have to consider that, out of that group that they would be tied against potentially. I mean, they've got wins against UNLV. In this scenario, they'd have the win against San Diego State. You'd think that those would, that would factor into, the decision making as far as who gets in and who doesn't.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, if you go to the Mountain West website and you read their tie-breaking policy, you almost feel like I felt like I needed to call an attorney to read through it because it's like getting instructions from IKEA and trying to figure out how to screw in a light bulb. Like they make it sound really complicated, but part of it, the gist that I got from it is if there's a 3 or more way tie, you can use head-to-head as one of the metrics. But if that's the case, UNM will not have played Hawaii. They will not have played Fresno
State. Yeah.
They lost to Boise. They would have beaten San Diego State. They would have beaten UNLV in that scenario. They've also beaten Utah State, which is also in the race. But of those 5 teams, they'll have only played 3 of them. And so then you drop down into strength of schedule in the college football playoff ranking. Who is the two highest ranked teams in that? Just it's absolutely.
Well, it's not going to be UNM, that's for sure, in that scenario.
Well, that extended college football playoff metric ranking that they have at the end, if UNM for some reason gets ranked higher than some of these other teams, that could be the tie-breaking policy. It's crazy when every single week they put out the list of teams and their chances of making the non-power teams of making the playoff. Last week was the first time ever UNM had ever been ranked in that, and they had like a 0.3% chance of getting into the playoff, which would seem like a joke, but to Lobo fans, like, wait a minute, you're telling me there's a chance?
There's a chance. It's not zero. It's
It's
almost
not zero.
infinitesimal, but it's still not zero.
Yeah, it's not -0, which it usually is. But yeah, 0.3% chance. Like, that's not even the blood alcohol level. We're not even to that point yet. But yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy.
It is. And kind of piggybacking off that, I mean, is this weekend you got Hawaii playing UNLV? Is that a game where you actually have to root for UNLV because again they have a tiebreaker against the Running Rebels, and if they lose, you lose out on that.
Yeah, you look at the Mountain West. The teams that are really surprising everyone are Hawaii, San Diego State, and New Mexico.
Yeah.
No one saw this out of New Mexico, but San Diego State was picked 8th in the preseason. Hawaii, I think, was picked 6th, right in there. And then the teams everyone thought was going to be really good, San Jose State was voted 3rd, and they are garbage. And the Lobos got beat by them. So it's really hard to figure out what's going on in the Mountain West.
Yeah, it is. It's going to make for an interesting next couple of weeks. I think everybody's going to be watching to see, who gets upset and who manages to hold on. I mean, if UNM can win out and get a little bit of help, I mean, obviously that's kind of the goal is to maybe turn this into a 2 or 3 team race where you've got tiebreakers on, whoever you're going up against. But as it stands right now, I mean, I think the most important thing right now is just beat Air Force. Don't put yourself in a situation where you have to ask for more help than you need.
Yeah. You lose to Air Force, then
you can pretty much say, you can kiss the conference championship goodbye. But the nice thing is at least they're still going to go to a bowl game.
Well, that's the thing is now the Mountain West has several bowl tie-ins. They have a loose tie-in to the Boca Raton Bowl, the Frisco Bowl, which would be kind of neat. Hawaii Bowl, which is on Christmas Eve, which means we would never get to cover that in person because it's Christmas Eve and it's in Hawaii.
Especially in Hawaii. Come on,
$25,000 to fly to Hawaii, which is
we could row out there and we wouldn't get there in time.
Yeah. Better leave now. Then there's the Los Angeles Bowl, the Los Angeles Bowl by Gronk or whatever it is. There's the most realistic bowl bids for the UNM are going to be obviously the New Mexico Bowl, the Idaho Potato Bowl, or the Arizona Bowl, whatever they're calling the Arizona Bowl now. So I think those are the 3 options. And the more they win, the more attractive they get to where they can possibly leave New Mexico. But here's the thing here's where I think they're going to stay in New Mexico no matter what. Is ESPN decides who goes to those bowl games, not the conference, not anyone else. And ESPN owns ESPN owns the right to the bowl game. Yeah. And they're going to say, look, if we can put in a team that's drawing pretty well at home, have that right around the Christmas holiday, you're probably going to get 35,000 fans in there, and it's going to look great on TV.
No, it is. Remember the NMSU game 2 years ago? I mean, they got over 30,000 for that.
Yeah. And the problem is then they're going to turn around and play somebody that you have no idea who they are, like Temple or something, Old Dominion.
Or NMSU. Somebody like that.
So aspire to be something greater than the New Mexico Bowl, but at the end of the day, it's probably going to be the New Mexico Bowl. So
that's pretty much what I'm thinking too.
Yeah. So New Mexico Highlands finished their season last weekend. They wound up getting beat by Black Hill State, got crushed. But they finished 6-5. It's their first winning record since 2012, I believe. Yeah. But Jeffrey Jones, the running back that we profiled, just a really good kid, just true freshman, didn't get recruited by anybody. New Mexico Highlands was his only offer. He winds up setting the school record for rushing yards in a season. He had almost 1,800 yards in 10 games. He sat out one game due to injury. And he's the guy that ran for 375 yards against Western New Mexico to set this freshman record for NCAA Division II. I think he's leaving.
I think that's a foregone conclusion.
Yeah, some FCS program like Montana State or Northern Arizona, somebody's going to come along and offer him a ton of money, or at least a ton of money isn't like $10,000-$20,000 a year. Just
Yeah.
come play for them.
So at least in the five, I would say at least five figures, right?
Yeah.
Maybe even six.
You can hear that squeaky toy in the back.
Oh, I know.
That's my little dog chewing on its little Halloween bat that my wife bought for it.
Thank God it's not my dog.
It is definitely my dog, making the perfect timing to play with a squeaky toy in the background.
Yeah, he's bored with you chatting. He wants you to play with him.
Yeah, well, it just walked up to me and teased me, got close enough for me to grab it, then ran away. Now it's over.
Of course. Oh my God.
If my wife watches that, enjoy that part of that, Sarah. Watching Sandy chew on her toy. So the New Mexico basketball team wound up losing to Mexico State over the weekend. That was one of the things we had to cover over the weekend from a distance. Lobos kind of exposed themselves as being, they're not great. They're serviceable.
They're solid. Yeah, yeah. And I think the one thing that also came out of it is just, they lack athleticism in certain areas. And I think this is a team that's just, if you get them in a game where they have to score 70, 80 points, that's not their game. That's not what they want to do. He wants to keep those games in the 50s and 60s and just out execute you because, I think they're going to be exposed in certain areas in certain places, especially, I mean, their guard play, I mean, is good, but I think their bigs is kind of where they're going to get exposed.
100%. Yeah. And they played two really tough games this week. They played Nebraska on Thursday night and that tournament in Kansas City. And then they'll probably wind up playing, they will play either Kansas State or Mississippi State the following day. And there are two Achilles moments for UNM basketball. One is they absolutely don't have the speed to handle pressure. So if you blitz them on defense, you can force them into mistakes and bad passes, bad shots. And two, you're right. The low post is almost non-existent. Tomislav Buljan is really their best low post option. He's 6'9", but they don't have that true big center like they had with Nelly and before that Morris Udeze. And that's going to come back and bite them. And they're the king of the pump fake. They're like our Thursday morning basketball groups. But the guards drive in, they pump fake a couple of times, they go up for the shot. It's kind of like old man Thursday basketball.
It's like I told you, it's like watching Indiana basketball circa 1960.
Yeah. It's not to say that it's going to be a long season for UNM basketball, but it's certainly not going to be that 26-5 kind of year you expect.
Oh no. I think Lobo fans have gotten spoiled by what Patino did the last couple of years, and I think this is a bit of a reality check. But I think with Olin, he's one of those guys. Year one, year two, that's where he kind of establishes his program. And kind of the identity. And then you get to that year 3, year 4, and that's when you start to see the payoff. And I think that's probably what this is going to be is, year 1 will be a bit of a struggle. There'll be a mid-level team, if they get a winning record, that's great. Next year, maybe they flirt with the possibility of 20 wins, and maybe getting into the postseason. And then, that third year is when we'll really see the true New Mexico Lobos under Olin.
Yeah, hopefully. It's going to be, you're right, a slow climb. Remember Patino's first year here, that team is just not very good. They had no post.
It was not.
And I think there was.
And he didn't have the advantage of the NIL at that point,
Yeah, and speaking of Patino, I'm sure Lobo fans love to watch Xavier. They're 2-2. They got smoked by Iowa in their most recent game. So I think Lobo fans like, at least we're not Xavier,
Yeah, this year.
Plus we're not playing in the Big East. We're not guaranteed to go, 5-15 in conference play. So it's going to be, if Lobo fans could take any solace, it's watching Xavier really, really struggle under Coach Patino that first year. But there's that.
A little bit of Schadenfreude there.
Yeah. All right. So going into the weekend, we're going to make some football predictions here. State football playoffs are this weekend. We'll start with Class 4A. Taos is in the mix against mighty Bloomfield. What do you see there?
Bloomfield by 70.
Yeah.
All right. It won't be that bad, but I mean, it's going to be like 40. It's going to be like 44-10, 50-7, something like that. But Bloomfield's definitely going to dominate.
You think they score on Bloomfield?
I think they'll score one. They did the last time they played them, so I think they'll get a score, maybe even 2. But other than that, yeah, I mean, this is one where the Bloomfield's going to run away with it.
Yeah, I think in that 50-6 type range, that's absolutely what I see. And then 3A, New Mexico Military at St. Mike's on Saturday.
I think 50-6 is a pretty good.
Yeah.
Sounds like a pretty good score there too.
Yeah. Yeah, every time I pick a St. Mike's game and I have the opponent scoring points, the first I have inevitably every single week one of their assistant coaches walks up to me. You pick them to score against us? Like, well, I can't pick a shutout every week. What do you want?
I
from me?
know. I mean, these are really. I mean, these are good teams. This isn't. This
Yeah,
isn't.
yeah,
Say. Well, Hope's a pretty good team too. It's not like it's West.
you're right.
I mean, I was sitting there searching for for a really bad team in the district, and I realized, oh yeah, they were all in the top 8. So
Yeah,
there wasn't a bad team in the district, and
yeah,
they still gave up points to Robertson. They still gave up points to to Hope, and and even Milwaukee scored a touchdown. So I think it's fair to say that they'll give up a touchdown. And I'm sure Joey will be mad about that, and he'll try to put 60 on them.
Here's what I think. I think they actually do shut out New Mexico Military because Nimi is not a great throwing team. If
Yeah,
they do score, it's on one of those plays where you least expect it, where you're
you
reading a
catch it
run.
with play action or something.
Yeah, and the guy
Yeah.
does a jump pass and they break it for 65 yards. But I think this game could be like in that 44-0 type thing. I don't think Joey. I don't think they mercy rule him, but I think you could. It's very realistic to think that this could be a shutout. So
No, absolutely, and something that you probably kind of brought up too. They're actually holding teams to a lower point per game total now than they did last year, and last year was
yeah,
amazing. I mean, if it wasn't for the 26 points they gave up to Dexter at the end of the year, I mean, they wouldn't have given up 70 points all season.
yeah,
They went in, I think it was 69 points. I think going into that last game, or 70 right at the button, and they got a chance to do that again.
yeah. It's. I tell you, that team's got it going on, and plus they're getting healthy too. They're getting a lot
They
of
are
their
at the
players
right
back.
time. I mean, we worried all year long that
Mhm.
that health was going to be their downfall, and they've been able to navigate that. And they've gotten some key guys back, especially on the offensive line, and Pete coming back as a linebacker. And I mean, he's an excellent player, especially in that scheme that they've got in. Having him there, obviously, we saw against Robertson, we saw how much of a game changer he is.
Yeah, just a good interview too. He's very humble.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Just a real down to earth kid. So, so I was glad to see him play well because you always know you're going to get good answers out of Pete Johnson after a game.
that's
So,
right.
but yeah, that's what it's actually a very quiet week for the two of us. So now we can start
I
focusing
know.
on
And we haven't even talked about the start of basketball season, which
right.
actually happens on Saturday.
Yeah,
Espanola plays Aztec
yeah,
at home.
first day of practice was yesterday, which is
I
Monday.
know. Joey Trujillo is not messing around, man. He's like, we're getting into this right away.
Like the sneakers aren't even broken in yet, and they're already
Yeah,
playing a
and
game.
he's already planning for Aztec. So
Yeah. So we'll probably start it next week on Thanksgiving week. We'll
yeah,
start breaking down some high school basketball for you since we're kind of getting our feet wet with that a little bit. But
yep.
yeah, as always, our athlete of the week, any suggestions you might have, just go ahead and email us at sports@sfnewmexican.com. Very slow week for high school sports. So you and I are going to have to dig deep.
Yeah, I guess somebody from Espanola is going to have to let us know if anybody blows up
Yeah.
the Sun Devils, because
Yeah.
it's either going to be a kid from Taos or a kid from St. Mike's, and my
Right.
money really is on somebody from St. Mike's. So.
All right, folks. Thanks for tuning in, and I appreciate my dog Sandy making a guest appearance out of scene. She dropped her toy finally, so
Well,
yeah,
you obviously ignored
right
her,
on
so
cue.
she's done with you.
Right on cue, she started chewing on that stupid toy again.
She heard her name, man. That's all you had to do.
Yeah, I know. Yes, I love that dog because I want to punch her off the bridge like Baxter. That's what I want to
There
do.
you go.
But thanks for tuning in. We'll talk to you next week.